if they didn't have the discipline though to apply those natural born gifts into execution, they didn't make it. And I've seen it time and time again. When you're in that top 0.0% of playing professionally, a lot of it was just discipline.
Did you have a phase where you felt that you ever lost your identity, and what did that transition teach you about attaching, I suppose, self-worth to what you're doing at the time?
So the biggest lesson I've learned, and I still apply that now in business, is that
So guys, welcome to the Freedom Renegades podcast for people who refuse to live unconsciously. Each episode, we bring together successful entrepreneurs, investors and thought leaders in the areas of wealth, health and freedom to share what it means to live with intention. So today
we're joined with someone who knows exactly what we mean by that, who's actually had to reinvent themselves a couple of times since being a NRL star, Matty. I'm not sure how long ago that was these days. But also having to, come out of leaving the game and building one of Australia's best leading buyers agencies here on the coast. So from football to buyers agency, mate, welcome to the Freedom Renegades.
Guys, thanks for having me.
You are so welcome. So look, you have lived two very, very different lives. And congratulations for reinventing yourself with the success that you have. It's awesome. As a professional rugby player, and another one of your careers being building one of Australia's leading buyers agencies, did you ever imagine the path would lead you here from football to buyers agent?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, great question. I think in life, like, we've always got some sort of blueprint on what we can envision. And if you were to ask me back when I was an NRL player, like, I'd be running a business on the Gold Coast in property, it'd just be like, no, of course not. I'm going to be playing footy. And that's my career. And that's kind of what I envisioned from the age of, 6 years old to be an NRL athlete.
Yeah.
And I was fortunate. I got to achieve that at the age of, turned full-time at 19 and then debuted at age 20 and had a great career with the Gold Coast Titans, loyal to the one club, and unfortunately had to retire at the age of 27 through injury. So to answer that question, it was kind of like I'd envisioned playing footy still right now at age 35. So definitely didn't see myself here. But in saying that, the cool thing with life is you can only connect the dots backwards. And I'm so content and actually blessed that chapter closed because it led to this amazing chapter. So it's just funny how life,
It is, mate. We bring this up a lot when we talk to guests, and especially some of our members in our other group of Fast Food Formula, about how so many people trap themselves in a career that they're not actually even happy in, or a life they're not happy in, because that's just what they've done since they left school or left university. Might have got a job, started a career in something. 5-10 years later, they're not really happy doing it, but they're more comfortable in the uncomfortability of it, and basically not taking the risk on themselves, actually just try something different. Try and change the trajectory of your life. Sometimes some of us are forced to do it. Other times, some people won't make the choice. So for you, do you think having that, basically being forced to make that change, was, the gift, I suppose you could say, as opposed to actually the obstacle?
Yeah, I definitely agree. Yeah, I think sometimes in life, you just got to keep moving forward and the obstacles remove themselves.
Yeah, I was going to say, when you finished that football chapter, did you have a phase where you felt that you ever lost your identity, and what did that transition teach you about attaching, I suppose, self-worth to what you're doing at the time?
Yeah, it's a big one. And I've said this a few times. The biggest realization I had during that period in your 20s, where you're still getting to know yourself, really.
Right.
But I was an athlete, and in my own mind, I was an NRL athlete. And when it finishes, though, and not on your own terms, it's really hard to deal with kind of the detachment from that identity you attach to your own self.
Yeah.
So the biggest lesson I've learned, and I still apply that now in business, is that what you do isn't who you are.
Right.
And even as business owners, we can get attached to our business and the revenue we make and the profit we make. And like if it's going up, my mood is better. If it's going down, my mood is worse, and I've realized, again, like sport, business is a roller coaster.
Oh, yeah.
Property investing is a roller coaster. Any sort of wealth building vehicle, it's not easy. If it was easy, everyone would be
Right,
Freedom
100%.
Renegades, right? So that's what I always say is, like, just know that there's ups, there's downs, but at the end of the day, that's your business or that's your wealth creation vehicle. It's it's not who you are.
No.
You as a person, when you came into this world,
Yeah.
you know,
Weren't
weren't
defined
defined by being an athlete or being that. So that's something I had to learn the hard way. And I see a lot of my mates now going through the transition. I always try to pass on that advice, is like, you are really more than just an NRL player or an athlete. Like
Yes.
Olympians always struggle too, because
Yes.
their whole life was that.
Yes.
But the cool thing is, I've realized a lot of the mechanics and habits that actually got me to an athlete, you can actually use them in other areas of life, and it's a benefit.
I was going to ask you that actually, because really at the end of the day, we are just who we, like in any facet of our life, whether it's football, whether it's business, we are just who we are inside a meat suit running around doing these different
Yeah.
things, right?
Literally.
But at the core, we are who we are. So was there lessons from that professional sport that you have now taken with you as Matt, who you are right now in your business? Did it teach you strong lessons that you were able to take on to your next chapter?
Yeah, for sure. I think the biggest lessons from sport, the one that always just comes front of mind, is discipline. And straight away, it's the first one I always say, discipline. And the reason is, I grew up with so many athletes who were stronger, faster, taller, bigger, muscular, you know,
Yes.
and they had everything, like in terms of like the natural ability. And if they didn't have the discipline, though, to apply those natural born gifts into execution, they didn't make it. And I've seen it time and time again coming through schoolboys where, again, these natural gifted athletes, they made all the rep teams. When you're in that top 0.0% of playing professionally, a lot of it was just discipline. Like it was guys who, like, they weren't the most talented, they weren't the fastest, quickest, but I tell you what, no one was keeping an eye on them because they did their extras. They got up the next day and they just kept going on their self-accord.
Yeah, I think the discipline, mate, hits home for me, because I choose a word every year to try and live that year by. And I've chosen discipline for a few years in a row because it's one thing that you can't sort of falter from through all aspects of your life, whether it's your health, wealth, self, like all modalities, where the choice just comes to simply, in my brain, is this a discipline decision or is this a want decision? Like, do I want or need the burger? Or am I going to eat the salads? I'm actually worried about my body. I want to be healthy and fit and get through the next year because it's a big year. The discipline of, like, the sport analogy in business is so hand in hand with just that terminology of just the discipline of what you need to do to get through injury, what you need to get through a loss. So for most people that go into a business, they have one bad week or bad month. And as you said, they let that define them. And then the business has gone to shit, didn't work, I give up. Because if you play a game of footy, you lose 1 week, I have a mope around it for the next rest of the Saturday arvo, but by come Monday morning at training, we're back on.
Yeah,
Like,
I don't
there's
like
a new game coming. Let's
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah,
So-
like it's in anything. Like I'm not a fan of fast food, but you use the Colonel Sanders analogy with, well, it's not even an analogy, it's fact. With KFC, and he knocked on, what was it, 1,001 doors before he got
2009, I think.
1,009 before he got his first yes to his special recipe. And, that right there is discipline and tenacity. And actually that brings me to my next point. You talk about the story of your dad's drive and tenacity in one of the pods that I listened to, that he was wired differently, which is ironic because this is Freedom Renegades, built differently, right? And so I instantly
You gotta be a
connected
little
to
bit
that.
different.
You got to have something a little different about you for us to reach out and grab people to come on this show, because we want to connect with like-minded people, right? But we love to speak to people who are built different. Do you reckon there was anything about what your dad's story taught you, i.e. he used to run to work rather than walk to work? So what was it about your dad, do you think, that might have filtered down through the way that you carry yourself today?
Yeah, I think with my dad, first of all, he grew up in Poland, so he's Polish background, so like that Eastern European. Grew up in the POW, like that prisoner of war time. So he's actually born in Germany, like not by choice, just because. So came through that. So again, I reflect back on like seeing him, like that was his upbringing, like very rough and tough. And a lot of Europeans you meet, immigrants, they just work hard. So growing up for me, the biggest thing I seen in my dad was the ability to push through. And it sounds like cliche, oh yeah, just work hard. But like when you actually see it on a daily basis, like as a child, you kind of, it rubs off on you. So yeah, he could easily have drove to work. He used to get up at like 3 o'clock to run to work and then do concreting
That's
like
mad.
all day and then run home. Just because I don't
That's
know,
wild.
he's just
I love
wired
it.
differently.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
so when it came to footy and then he exposed me to the game of rugby league with my older brothers, I was the youngest. You know, getting back up after getting hurt or tackled, it's just like I see that of like, you know, dad
It
would
becomes
push through
visceral,
here.
doesn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
It's like inbuilt.
It does,
Yeah.
yeah. So that was probably the biggest one. I think the cool thing is when obviously I reflect on that, and then with my mum, who's complete opposite, she's Filipino, you know, very soft natured. So I've been blessed. I've kind of seen both sides of like the
The yin and
importance
the
of
yang.
the importance of being able to talk around your feelings and you know, show people emotion, and also the other side of like,
Getting
hey, yeah, get back up too.
Yeah.
Like, hey,
Yeah,
let's not cry
great.
about this. Let's get on with
You had
it.
your feelings. You've had this moment.
Let's
Time to
get
go
on
move
with
on again.
let's get on with it.
Yeah.
So I've been really blessed. But yeah, I credit a lot to my my dad, who's passed away now, but it was cool when he did pass away. We'd all reflect, and the big thing we all spoke around was like how much he impacted people just through action, not
Yeah.
words.
Yeah. I think that's the biggest way you can actually impact someone else is actually by taking the action. Like it's one thing to try and tell someone what they should do,
Mm.
but if they see you doing it, then they'll more likely follow suit.
Yeah.
It's like the old parenting analogy. You know, you can't tell your kids to get off the devices if you're going to sit there on your phone scrolling for 3 hours a
Yes.
day. You know, and same thing, you can't tell your kids they can't eat that and they need exercise if you're going to sit on the couch all day and just eat burgers and pizza and drink and not go to the gym.
Mhm.
Like it's sort of monkey see, monkey do. And we have this conversation all the time with our nephews and nieces about the life we want you to live and the life that you guys want to live is different. But when we're together, like when you're with as an M, Uncle as an Auntie M, you live our way. And when you go home, you can live your parent
Yeah.
way because this is our life, this is our world that we live in. And you're more than welcome to come and spend as much time in here as you like, but this is
And it's
the way
just
we
being
live.
that example.
Yeah.
So with sport, I suppose, you know, for the times that you do fall off the wagon and, you know, you don't have the strength to get back up, you've got coaches.
Mhm.
So how does that translate to business? You know, who keeps you accountable when you're running your business? Because God knows and we know that there are times that you get knocked down and you got to get back up and keep going. So do you have anybody in your world that keeps you accountable?
Yeah, I think in business, the one thing, if you've never run a business or been in business, is number one, you hear it, but until you experience it, you don't realize that it's a lonely journey. And you sort of think within business itself, I don't know what the statistic is, but it's very grim of like the amount of businesses that fail within the first 12 to 24 months too. It's tough. It's a lot harder than what people actually think.
Shh, don't tell everyone.
Yeah, and
It's supposed to be easy.
I've realized a lot of business, I don't know where I've heard it, is between the ears. And
Oh, yeah.
no one is perfect, myself included. And there are days where I don't feel like going and doing business things. I don't feel like showing up.
I'm not the only one.
But and everyone who's owning a business is like, yeah, that's me too. But the discipline again and the conversation you have in your own mind, I think is a big part of it.
Yeah.
So I think the biggest part around business and being able to keep pushing forward is what conversation are you having within the space of your own mind?
Yeah.
I think it starts there, because the more you can control that, the better you can show up, because
Yep.
business is a game of showing up
100%.
as best you can,
Consistent.
many times as you can.
Yeah.
We are not going to show up at 100%. That's impossible. Sometimes we're running a week on 10%. But the ability, sometimes you've got a team who needs you at 30 or 50%, and you have to show up for that.
Yeah.
So I think that's the biggest advice I can give for anyone who isn't in business. Thinking about it is like, it's not easy, and also know there will be times where you feel like I feel like giving up and quitting.
Yep.
And then the third part is, I think that's then it's a mind game. It's a mindset.
Mindset.
It's
100%.
100%. Your
So-
inner world creates your outer world.
Yeah.
Definitely.
You know, and I think to speak to that environment, like hearing what you were just saying, then you do have to show up and you do have to keep playing even when some days you don't want to. But I think the biggest thing that has assisted us on that journey is surrounding yourself with like-minded
Yes.
people, because then, you know, you realize that other people can identify with what you're going through and you don't feel like you're isolated on the journey. You don't feel like you're the only one experiencing challenges if they come up, or experiencing, you know, devastation, or not even, you know, you've got people to celebrate the wins with as well. And I think that's so important, because your environment is so much stronger than your willpower, right? When the going gets tough.
I'm glad you brought that up, because the layer on top of that, if you can know that, hey, your mindset is important, what helps the mindset and the conversation between your ears is support
Yeah.
and people around you. And I pay massive amounts of money for mentors, help, books,
Great.
anything. And I was having a conversation with a few people on the way here around, I was chatting to someone and they were struggling with a task that was a bit more complex. And I said to her, why don't you ask so-and-so who I've paid a lot of money for to get the answers? She's like, oh, that's a good idea. And she solved it like that.
Yeah.
And I always say, people don't understand sometimes the audit on their time and energy
Right.
for themselves.
Yeah.
Yes, you could probably figure it out. Yes, you could go through the hardship and pain, but I'm all around, hey,
Path of least resistance.
well, yeah, path of least, because this business game is hard enough.
Yeah.
As I said, there's a lot of
How
conversation.
much time, effort, and energy
How
you
much
have
time
spent
and
trying
effort is
to-
there? I'm trying to conserve that. So why not pay for someone else's help who can give me the
Sure.
answer,
Yeah.
shorten that time. I
100%.
learn quicker.
Yep.
We all sort of win there. So the
100%.
importance of mentors, community, people around. Again, it's if you don't have the funds or you haven't built that stat yet in terms of like your business going,
Yeah.
there's podcast, there's YouTube,
Mate,
there's so much stuff now.
We are living in an age that there's so much information out there and
Yes.
mentorship. Like when we run our events, we do a 3-day real estate event that we run about flipping property. Our biggest takeaway for most people is like most of our mentors are passed on. The amount of stuff they've got on YouTube, Spotify, that's still accessible, and it still means just as much today as what it did 10, 15, 20, 50 years ago when that was recorded. The importance of even just putting one on in the morning for 10, 15 minutes, whatever you hear that day might just be exactly what you need to hear just to help you get over that little hurdle. Sometimes you can listen to a 3-hour podcast and get nothing out of it, but sometimes you can listen to a 3-minute YouTube clip and it just sets you up for the day and it helps you just answer that question you've been stuck on, or gives you that,
Fills your head with good stuff.
gives you that learning to go, oh, that's who I need to speak to get through this or get over that. And I just want to go back to what you said about business, how it's not easy and it's not for everyone. Most people see other people running their businesses and think, fuck, they've got it worked out. Like they're just humming along, like they've got no problems in the world, like they're killing it. Meanwhile, the person you're talking about in their head are going, fuck, how am I going to make payroll this week? Or fuck, that bill hasn't been paid. I don't even know I'm going to get through the next 60 hours of work in the next 3 hours. I've got to submit this. Like there's so much like the duck cruising along the pond and then underneath it pedaling like mad. That'd have to be 99.8% of business owners.
For sure, yeah.
So when everyone starts out in business, as you said to us, it's about that instant gratification thing where people think if I start a business today, by 12 months' time, I'm going to be a millionaire. That has happened and it can happen, but majority of the time, businesses take a good 3 to 5 years before they really get established and actually become profitable in the sense that your life starts to change.
Definitely.
Whereas, and we've got this whole thing of delaying that gratification. Like if you make your first couple 100,000 or million, reinvest it into yourself, reinvest it back into your business in some way to make it not just necessarily bigger and better, but more supportive. Bring in the people who you think can help you grow and help you, help your mindset on a daily basis. You want to work with people who help hold you to a high account, but also can think for themselves and work with the business, not for the business.
Yeah, definitely.
It's super important.
You mentioned that meditation and journaling are essential for moving forward and gaining success, but they're not necessarily things that people would expect from a former rugby league player. How did you discover that those things are beneficial, and what role would they necessarily play in your performance now?
Yeah, I think meditation, you're right. It's from a rugby league play, right? That's where I got exposed to it, believe it or not. I remember, I've been retired nearly 10 years now. It would have been like 10. So meditation was kind of getting a bit cool, but back then, right? Now it's like the trendy thing. But
even people who don't do it say they do it.
Yeah. And I remember for performance, we're just trying to think of ways as a team we could optimize, and mindset was a big part always. And they brought in facilitators for meditation and like different things. And it was really new to me. I was like, this is a bit woo-woo.
It is a bit weird.
Yeah. Anyways, long behold, I end up retiring, next chapter of life, go down the self-development route to kind of bring myself back to where I want to go in life. And a lot of the habits I was noticing were to do with your state internally, like health and different things like that.
Yeah.
Meditation was one that I enjoyed, but I found it difficult. And this is where I think people always struggle with it, is they put pressure on themselves around, I'm not doing meditation right. But there is no real right or wrong. That's my biggest learning.
Yeah.
It took me years and years and years, and still to this day, I meditate every day. But what I say is the strength is when your mind drifts, because it always drifts.
Of course.
It's just the ability to try and notice that and bring it back.
Yeah.
That's all it is. It's not, you don't have to be this calm.
Oh.
My thoughts are gone, because
Yeah.
that's impossible. It's around just
100%.
controlling and being aware. I think that's my biggest takeaway with meditation. And the reason I do it every day is because now when you train the muscle of being more aware, you're now more aware in business of how you're feeling. So when you're not
Make
feeling the best,
emotional decisions.
then you can make decisions depending on the state. You know what you need.
Yes.
Hey, I need to rest, or I need to step up. I need to have that conversation. This is just in my mind. You're just aware.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
I think that's all meditation for me anyway. That's what I've got out of it, is feel I'm more aware.
I
Oh,
think
100%. Even the form of meditation, like as you said, most
Yes.
people, they think that meditation involves sitting in silence, sitting still,
Yeah.
and not having a thought. If you have 100,000 thoughts a day and you can slow that down to 1,000 thoughts, that's meditating, because you've just blocked out so much noise to allow other thoughts to come in still. But for me, like, I realized after a couple of years of same thing, I tried to meditate and I'm like, I can't do this. I can't sit still. I can't stop these thoughts. So I'll just sit here and just think
Yes.
more while everyone else is meditating. And it wasn't until a mentor of mine explained the thought process behind meditation. And I used to ride dirt bikes through the bush at 80 k's an hour. You can't think about anything else.
No,
So
you
it's the
can't.
next
Form of
50, 100 meters
meditation,
in front of you. So it's a form of meditation, because I can't think about the business. I can't think about work. Couldn't think about the girlfriend or the wife or anything of those thoughts. It was like, I don't want to hit that tree. I don't want to hit that tree. I don't want to go off that cliff. So for some people, like Em used to, like, you can color in. You can do,
Yep.
even just listening to music and listen to especially old school songs that you haven't heard for years. And it
Oh,
takes you back.
dancing to big bangers. Yes.
Yeah.
Like, it's raising your energy, it's changing your state, but it's also slowing over those thought processes down. Like it's funny how many people think you have to put in half an hour to an hour aside a day for it.
Yeah.
Like, I joke to people all the time about, if you introduced every single morning routine that's out there
Totally.
into your daily
Oh my
routine,
God. You wouldn't.
it'd take you fucking 23 and a half
bed.
hours to
Literally.
get your day started.
Yeah.
So we always say, just try it, like just experience it. So whether it's meditation, yoga, Pilates, gym, running, walking, whatever it is, just try it for yourself. If it's a fit, keep doing it. If it's not, find something else. Because there's so many different things you can do to help just, as I said, live in a better state, have more energy, be more relaxed, and get yourself to a point where you can get a little process where you know, okay, I've got to make a big decision right now. What's my emotional state? Because if I make this decision when I'm angry, as opposed to when I'm happy, that can take your business in two different directions.
Yeah.
So I think it's
Agreed.
more about, if you get hit with those, say, business decisions, even these life decisions, it's okay to actually go, actually, I'm just going to give myself a couple of minutes, like, to sit, think, breathe, or if not, this isn't a decision I can make today. Like, I'm just not in a good space, so I need to make it tomorrow or have a
The
sleep.
sauna's my best friend. I love the
yeah.
sauna because, I often get dubbed with a label that I refuse to take on board because I don't like labels. But let's just say that my brain never stops.
Yeah.
And saunas slow me right down because there's not a whole lot you can do in there, right? And especially if you have a little bit of a sound healing on in the background. So that's a way that personally I've found. But I think, in coming back to the fact that, meditation and journaling, getting stuff out of your head, you touched on rest being productive as well. What's your thoughts around rest being essential to business productivity and also incorporating it in and scheduling it in?
Yeah, where the whole rest is productive came from, as an athlete, we had on seasons and we had off seasons. And then when I retired, coming into the world of business, I was just observing from afar, like, no one really had off season. They were just on like, all the time.
Yeah.
And I found it odd because people may look at these athletes and they're like, man, they're always on. But we would train hard for probably 2 hours and then we're resting. We're recovering. We're ice bars, nutrition, all of that.
Yep.
You got to think, we don't train every day. There's got to be a recovery day post game. We're not doing anything.
Yeah.
They say go to the beach, surf, play golf, just rest.
Yep.
So then when we come in Monday, we're on though. Like, it's not like we're dawdling around. Like,
Yeah.
it's physical, it's tough. Then you rest and then you go to the next session and it's wrestle and you're physical and then you rest. So it's just like, and then after a season of 24 rounds, whatever it is, you have a month and a half off completely
Yeah.
of an off season.
Well, you can't give from an empty cup, right?
Yeah,
And then you get in business and you're like, oh, I'm doing 7 days a week. I'm doing 12, 15 hours a day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's where my philosophy of rest has come from. I didn't put two and two together because I see athletes as some of the highest performers in their field. Why can't entrepreneurs who are also highest performers in their field, why can't they just adopt some of these habits from over there? And then as I started going down this route, I found there's like a level of entrepreneur. Then I found like some really high perform. They very much prioritize rest, recovery, sleep, nutrition, which I found really refreshing. I'm like, it is
possible.
There is possibility in the business world. So
in fact, I think it's essential.
I think it's
really.
essential. Yeah.
I was going to say exactly the same thing. I think it's more essential than what anyone gives it credit for.
100%.
Do you think that comes down to this hustle culture and, you've got to work harder, you've got to outwork everyone?
Hustle, I'm allergic to the word hustle. If I hear the word hustle one more time.
So many people think like, it's about grinding and hustling and I've got to outwork the next person. And you're right. And as you speak to some of these like higher level entrepreneurs and CEOs that have got, hundreds of millions, if not billions, as opposed to just the everyday entrepreneur that's like trying to break their first million or first couple of million, the difference between their energy levels and how they treat their life. You're like, gone are the days where it was about hustling and sleeping in your office, doing 18 hours a day, 7 days a week, and just trying to outwork everyone. These guys are like, I do probably 2 hours a day.
There's a level.
But those 2 hours I'm on for my team, my business, my wife, everything, and the next 8 hours a day I'm recharging myself and sitting there and allowing myself time to even just think and process.
I think there's a level of persistence, drive, determination, grit, the characteristics that are conducive to success that are required. However, I think at some point you've also got to allow space to recover, replenish, fill back up the cup, because otherwise if you're burnt out, you can't give from an empty cup. And, if you got to fit your own mask first. Otherwise, without you, there is no business.
Sprinting analogy. Like if you're a sprinter, you can't just sprint all day. You might do 100 meters and then you walk back and rest and go again. And I think business is the same. We probably need to learn a bit more of this lesson as well, is it's okay to actually just take the day and like give yourself that time, because you can keep going hard and we both work hard, we all work hard and we all try and achieve more than what's possible. But you also get to a point where you're like, I actually need to take some time out so I can actually go hard again.
Yes.
Like, so you can find that fuel in your tank when you need it.
For 100%. Yeah. I always just say rest is productive. Rest is just like prospecting calls or your one-on-one meeting. Like try and schedule it in. I think it is important. And at the end of the day, I say this as well, like we all started business to have a form of freedom and most business owners have everything but.
The irony in that statement.
And it's just like, just remember at the end of the day, why you started the business. Like, yes, we can all work hard. Yes, we can all hustle and grind, and comparison's the thief of joy, right? There's someone ahead of you right now who you're like, man, I feel deflated because they're doing. At the end of the day, business is an infinite game. It's not like footy where there's a scoreboard at the end. It's the game against yourself and whatever scoreboard you put on your own metric.
There's always going to be someone that's doing more than you and having more than you. Like if you, unless you're going to become Elon Musk and become the richest person in the world. Like we had the podcast a couple of weeks ago where the different levels of success and freedom and what they mean to the individual. Because if you have your level of success or freedom attached to someone else's, you'll never get there, because it'll move from that person to the next person. And before you know it, you're happy with $5 million, then you get that 5 million, and all of a sudden you want 10.
Yes.
10, you want 20. So if you keep chasing that dragon, you're going to be exhausted, burn out, and as you said, you get to a point where you have a really busy and successful life, business, but actually happy and enjoying yourself.
Definitely.
Matt, you bought your first investment property at 22. Congratulations. That's pretty damn awesome. While still playing professional footy. But looking back now, was buying the property actually about financial freedom for you, or was it the first time that you realised you wanted a completely different life away from football?
Reflecting back, no, the first one was purely, I didn't have too much property knowledge like whatsoever. As I said, my dad was from Poland, my mum was from the Philippines, very much hardworking individuals, no debt. They did very well to buy a house outright and that's it, what investment? No way.
Yeah.
Debt. Get that word out of the.
I know, wasn't it? It was such a big philosophy of that generation.
Oh yeah, yeah. So I tell a story always of like, I didn't tell my dad for I think it was about a year and a half that I bought a property, because the word debt would have sent him like, Matt, what have you done? And I just knew that from my learning on podcasts and YouTube, and I used to go to all the I love real estate. I used to go to all of them. On a weekend away from footy, I'd just digest learning about real estate.
Yeah.
And why were all these successful people choosing positive debt? I call it positive debt because you're leveraging, obviously there's debt, it's good debt. So for me, I'm like, you know what? I respect my parents and I love them and they love me. But at the end of the day, their financial situation isn't what I want for myself either. Like they worked hard, but at the end of the day, we just got by. So
Yeah.
I want to be the conduit in my family to change that financial future.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do something different. And it took me a lot of guts, and I bought my first property. And as I said, I didn't tell my dad because I knew he'd try and talk me out of it.
Yeah.
And I just didn't tell him for ages. Anyways, the day come and I told him, and he questioned it. I said, just trust me.
Yeah.
And then that first property was my first time of like ownership of real estate. Was it from an investment point of view? No, it was actually from a point of view of
I
like,
wanna own a
this is,
house.
it was.
Yeah.
Then that led me down the rabbit hole again, between having injuries, having more time, started diving in magazines. And
Yeah.
I started learning about property investment.
Yes.
So property can be used as a wealth building vehicle, not
Yeah.
just shelter.
Yeah. Right.
And that opened up a whole new space of like, well, this word equity and leveraging against it and
Yep.
and renovation and different things like that. So that journey, the first one was about ownership.
Mhm.
The next path with property took me down investment and
Yeah.
wealth.
I was going to ask you that too. So over the years, you've built a significant property portfolio. Congratulations again. And some would say that you're in the top 1% of investors in the country. But has your philosophy on investing changed somewhat over the years, or how has that evolved?
Great question. I would say there's a heap of ways to skin a cat, right? You hear that saying. And the thing with property, that's probably so true in the world of property. There is plenty of different ways to make wealth. There's reno, there's development,
Yeah.
there's rooming accommodation, there's
And they all
Airbnbs,
work,
and
right?
yeah, and they all work. Like
Yeah,
you will find
100%.
someone successful. So I think number one is, if you're starting the journey on trying to build wealth in property, just know there are plenty of different avenues you can go, and choosing the right one isn't the priority. The priority is getting started.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like do
Get your
something,
foot in the door.
because us three here could give you so many lessons that we wouldn't have taken on if we didn't just try.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I've lost money in real estate. I've made money in real estate, but I tried.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that trying has given me lessons.
Yeah.
And then I take that lesson and I go and keep evolving.
Yeah,
So
it's
I see
compound.
so many people miss out on time in the market and real estate, which is the biggest leverage towards
Yeah.
towards wealth, is
Yeah.
time in the market. They
Of
miss
course.
out because they've got analysis paralysis sitting on the sideline.
Yep.
And that is the most expensive thing they are doing right now.
100%, mate. It's like when, going back to your sporting days, you can train as many days and as hard as you want. You can be the best in the training field, but unless you actually play on Saturday and get in the game and actually play a game, get some game time, it's irrelevant how
It's
hard you
irrelevant,
train. It's irrelevant how, as you said, the natural ability guys that could go to these schoolboy games and they got all the natural ability in the world, but if they're not taking the discipline during the week to then get to the next level, they just never make it.
It's that false evidence appearing real,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that
Like when you-
acronym for fear,
Mhm.
because really that's all it is. It's fear and belief. Belief whether or not it's possible, belief that you can even do it, and fear about what's the worst thing that could possibly happen. It goes to shit. It doesn't work. You lose a whole heap of money, but you look at most billionaires around the world, when they're millions down, which has happened to pretty much most of them, are they worried about that? Or are they working out how they can get ahead
back.
by billions?
Mhm.
So,
Exactly.
it's all perspective. And as long as you're not dead, and as long as you're here to step up and try again, well, then that's really what it comes down to is, what doesn't kill you is only going to make you stronger.
Yeah.
Right?
And it goes back to the point around whether it's business, whether it's wealth building, a lot of it is the conversation between your own ears.
Yeah.
Like
100%.
literally.
Yeah.
And I found that with property. And to layer one more on the strategy, I built a lot of my early foundation on just capital growth. I used to focus heavily on a good location. I didn't like buying things that were polished and brand new. I liked
Something
Yes.
that
manufacturing,
value.
adding
Yeah.
value.
Yeah.
I wasn't knocking down walls, just paint, carpet, fan, but like very boring, simple renovation, like
Yeah.
as simple as it gets.
That's what it's as simple as it gets, and it's as simple as he can get started.
Mm.
Like
It
you're
is,
starting out.
honestly.
Some people think, oh, I've got to go and do a 4 or 6 pack, townhouse today.
No
Or be a
way.
property developer.
Keep it
Don't even
simple,
think about it.
sweetie.
Yeah.
We tell our students all the time, like, keep your first couple of deals as simple as possible, so you can look back on
Yes.
those deals in 3 or 4 deals time and go, shit, we could have done so much more,
Mm.
but you wouldn't have done it then. So you would actually still be out
Exact-
procrastinating and not actually doing anything.
Exactly, yeah.
And you hit the nail on the head before about, say, real estate, for instance, towards wealth creation. That's obviously the vehicles we've chosen. There's so many different strategies within that vehicle that so many people will bounce from one strategy to another over the course of 3 to 5 years and actually not do anything in any of them. Stick to one strategy, see that strategy out at least once, then work out, is that for you? If it's not, okay, then move on to another strategy. And if we move on to crypto, move on to something else completely different. But most people go from subdivision to development to renovation, back to subdivision. They just dance around because they'll go to a seminar, they'll hear someone's story and go, oh, I want to do that. And the next speaker gets up next week and says, I did this and made this much money. He's like, oh, I want to do that. And we call it shiny objectitis, where you'll see someone do something, saying, I want to do that. But then as soon as someone else does something bigger or better, your whole focus just shifts and moves over here.
It's I just thought I've never actually thought about it. That you're so right. I think a lot of first-time investors have got too much shiny objects in front of them to take action. I'm just reflecting now. I've done the same strategy for 14 years, and I've just got divvied into commercial for more of a cash flow, and I'll do a bit more with development and flip. But I've just been buy, renovate, hold for
Stay in your
14
lane.
years.
Yeah.
I know there's so many other ways. I get
100%.
approached. You could imagine all these property opportunities come my way, and I'm just like, that again is the conversation I had to have the discipline. I'm like, I know what's worked for me. I'm just going to stay that course for a point of time, and then I'll have a look at the shiny object. And I think you nailed it. A lot of people do one path and then shiny object, bang, and then bang, and they lose focus because whether it's sport, business, property, focus and application and taking action is like most of it.
Yeah, 100%. Sorry to cut you off. My granddad always used to say, though, if you try and chase 2 rabbits, you're never going to catch one. And it's true. I've always carried that.
So true.
Because like I'm a visual person and I see that. I see a rabbit going that way, going that way. You're not going to catch either of them. But, you've really just got to stay the course and make one thing work. Keep the main thing, and stay in your lane.
So true.
And as you said, like you've got so many opportunities. You've stayed in your lane for say 13 or 14 years doing the one simple strategy for real estate. You slowly now decided to diversify and go over towards commercial, but you're also running a massive business. So you've also got to think, what sort of bandwidth do I actually have?
Yes.
Where so many people like overestimate what they're going to do in a year, but completely underestimate what they can get done in the next 5. Because it's that instant gratification thing. So if I can't go and flip a house and make $1 million in a month, well, I'm going to go do development because that's easier. Well, that development's going to take you 18 months to 2 years. If you're trying to run a business or get a business off the ground at the same time, how much time have you actually got to give that? And how much risk tolerance have you got to put towards it?
You spoke about before people's fear in the market, and we, like, obviously with what we do as well too, we get a lot of our students going through that fear and is it the right time? They buy into the media narrative, and that's the worst thing you can do, right? Because it's not really real. But in turning off the TV, there's always going to be property cycles because property moves in cycles, right? But what does resilience mean to you in the context of investing in property and the different cycles? Do you believe that investors can make money in any market?
Probably depending on the strategy, I guess. Like if they're looking to get in, get out in a very short amount of time, I think the cycle would play a role. If your strategy was more of a long-term hold, buying obviously location dependent and things like 100%. That, I think they would make money. Yeah, I always put it this way. Why I love real estate and property as a vehicle towards wealth is the de-risk factor.
Yes.
I like the safety net of it. Are there quicker ways you could earn quick cash? 100%. But again, I don't really attach myself to the high risk, high reward again, because I know I'd rather put my focus on here, maybe have a little play over here, but a lot of the eggs got to sit safely. I think that's number one.
100%.
And then off the back of that, I always say why I like it is because the risk factors is diminished lower because the commodity is shelter.
Yeah.
Until I can see visible evidence that shelter is kind of running out of fashion
And not required.
and not
or- yeah.
required, I think
You can't be
it's going to be
waiting for all that,
okay.
mate.
Yeah. And that's what I always keep an eye on. You got to look at what is the actual commodity here. It's roofs over heads,
Yeah.
And what's the
supply and
demand? What's the
demand.
supply- yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the thing
So-
about Australia, like we've got such a massive
shortage.
shortage of our
Oh
supply and
my
demand,
gosh.
which is just so out of balance. It's insane, and it's not going to get corrected anytime soon.
Well, I
Like
was going to actually put that as a question to you from your experience and what you see on the ground. Supply and demand, we're told that there is a huge amount of
Mhm.
demand and very little supply to meet that demand. What's your experience?
Yeah, I still think we're very well low on supply. Yeah, number one.
Yeah.
I mean, we're very grateful. We're very much on the ground, especially here in Southeast Queensland, on the Gold Coast
Yeah.
in particular. We're one of the highest demand cities. Like we're really cool now, and everyone wants to live here. It's a good lifestyle.
Yeah.
But we've
COVID
got
did wonders.
yeah, but the thing around the Gold Coast is we've got ocean to the east, and then we've got hinterland to the west. So I like landlocked cities in terms of growth.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because what we spoke around before is if you've got demand, which is in this case people moving in or wanting to have
Relocate.
desire and aspiration to live in a city,
Yeah.
that's demand. If you've got supply constraints, as I said, we've got ocean and you can't build supply there.
Mm.
And I've been fortunate enough to chat to like the deputy mayor and different people within our city is they're going to increase supply, but they still can't increase it to the point of like,
Yeah, we're still
they-
restricted. With
we're
what we've
still
actually
very
released.
restricted, and they don't want to put high rises in suburban areas all over. They don't want
Yeah.
that because they know the beauty is how nice our city is.
Yeah.
And
Yes, there
everyone-
are pockets along the Gold Coast Highway that they have to go up. It's
Yeah.
the only
Exactly.
way. So when you talk on like what I see for the future, when I look at like supply versus demand, yes, we're still behind, but I know there's lots of people coming because we get the
Yes.
inquiry
Yeah.
on a weekly basis.
Yes.
So it's
So
I-
it means
it-
that,
yeah, there's peaks and drops. I just can't see it.
No,
going
it's
the
sort
other
of
way.
hearing what
Not
you're
really.
saying means only one thing: the prices can only go up, right?
Yeah, unless again something drastic comes in terms of people not wanting to.
Live here or
Yeah, and the reason again I like kind of strong cities is because of the safety net, again, the de-risk of people living here. So for example, why I love the Gold Coast is we're not only diversified now from an economy, we know we've got tourism, which was always our
Always
big
big,
one
yeah.
back in the day, but that's all we kind of had.
Yeah.
Now we've got strong infrastructure, we've got jobs,
Yep.
we have businesses moving here that are setting up shop.
Yep.
Yeah.
Film and TV is growing, medical has been at its highest,
huge.
transport, so we've got a
Yeah.
lot of industries now.
Yeah.
The layer on top of all of it, and this is what I learned post-COVID, is people put an emphasis on lifestyle.
Yes.
And I think pre-COVID, people didn't really, it's like, let's go to a big city for opportunity.
Yeah.
I've realized now, post-COVID, people are like, I want opportunity, but I care about my mental health.
Yeah.
I care
just
about
wanna get outside.
waking up
Yep.
and going outside
Yep.
and having sunshine.
Sunshine. That's
And I've realized that is a big driver towards Southeast Queensland at the moment.
yeah. So we're ex-Victorian from 10 years ago. So we're
Oh,
still
there you
classed as
go.
Mexicans.
Yeah.
We're still
Don't tell
locals for another 25 years.
Yeah.
But and same thing, we moved to Cooley like 10 years ago, and it was still the sleepy little hollow. It was
Mhm.
quiet, but the same thing. We looked at it and we're like, "There's no way this place is going to stay like this for much longer."
Therein lied the opportunity, though,
Yeah.
right? Because being an ex-holiday town, there's a lot of stock sitting there that is hardly touched. It's only used by holiday makers, and with what you said and the influx of people wanting to be here, and we both looked at each other and thought, how has this place been kept a secret, right?
That's one of the best
But then-
coastlines in the world.
It's beautiful.
Like,
Yeah.
like
It's
insane.
phenomenal.
So for flipping, it was a no-brainer.
Mm.
So people want to come here, but they don't want old crappy stock. They don't want stuff that's dated 10 or 20 years old. They want stuff that's nice, because especially the people coming from major cities in other states, they want something move-in ready. They want the lifestyle, but they don't want to also live in a, excuse my French, a shitbox. So they want it to look good. So that was such a big opportunity for us on the coast, and I see only future growth, to be honest with you, because there is still demand. And when you've got between 400,000 and 600,000 people a year being brought into the country, it's a no-brainer. It's those people have got to live somewhere. they've got to have a roof over their head, and as do the people living in the country already. So, you just put two and two together, and supply and demand, it can't go backwards. I don't believe it can go backwards.
I always say too, it's an observation I've been looking at of spotting, like you said, like opportunity in areas. And I remember doing this in Brisbane, like back in the day when I invested in some of those Western corridors where like, oh, you wouldn't really have a look in there. I don't know. What I do is I like to get in the main streets of town. So for example, say Coolangatta
Yeah.
Tweed, for
Yep.
example. Here's a good example. I like to look, I like the balance. This is for opportunity, not like booming.
Yeah.
Opportunity, this is what I see. I love places where the main strip of town has got a nice mix of, commercial versus, cafes, bakery, whatever. But it's a little bit of 80% dinge.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of like
It's a little bit not
old
quite there yet.
signage,
Yeah.
old signage, things like that.
Yeah.
And then you keep an eye on that area, and if you start seeing like a cafe or something, and you look at
Something
the
a bit more
price,
trendy.
well, you look at the prices of the
Yes.
menu,
Yes.
and then
Also
you have a
have-
look at the if there's demand.
Yeah.
That's how you can spot wealth coming into an area.
Yeah.
And
The
I seen it
gentrification.
firsthand in places like Mermaid Beach, Burleigh,
Mhm.
Palm Beach, and Coolangatta.
Yeah.
And I've been here, well over a decade now. And Mermaid Beach, at the moment, to what it was,
Oh,
Oh, man.
the wealth bracket and the
My
cost
God.
of a bacon and egg, and the fit out, and
Gone
the
from
you know what I mean?
$5 for a bacon, and egg, and a coffee to 15 to 25.
Well, yeah, and
Yeah.
it's even looking at the fit out.
Yes.
Because as a business owner, I want to do a good fit out,
Right.
and you've got to have money to do that.
Yeah.
Yes.
And if you've got these nice commercial precincts that are getting fitted out, there's money in the area.
Yeah.
So again, that's just one little tip I give on the Gold Coast.
I
And
love that.
find these opportunities. 80% dinge to start. Keep an eye on those ones.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Keep
the
an eye on those.
gentrification.
Gentrification, yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Oh my God, I love that, because we always talk about that with what we do, and and to the students asking, oh, where do I know how to find a deal? Where do I look? Well, yada yada. But I think it really comes down to getting down on a grassroots level, finding out who the people are in the area and what do they want, and give it to them. It's like any business, right? If you don't know if there's a buyer on the back end, why would you get into that business? And it's finding out,
Yeah.
okay, well, who are the people that are buying? What are their needs? Not your needs, but their needs. You can make any property look great with a renovation, or, add value to it. But is there actually going to be a need and a desire for that product on the back end? But I love that you said that about getting down and actually find out what's going on in the ecosystem of the area.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it's, there's so many keyboard warriors today that sit behind a computer and do all the data research on various websites or another. But sometimes you just got to walk the streets.
You do. Yeah, you do. I remember early 20s just starting investing and doing the little cosmetic renovations. And I remember pockets of like Western Brisbane and Logan.
Logan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I grew up Western Brisbane. So I knew the areas, but I got a sense of there's Logan as a city,
Yes.
but there's pockets. And when I walked in there, I was like, no. And then there's one I walked in there, I was like, yes.
Yeah, this is-
and
yeah.
just I wouldn't have known that behind a screen or anything.
Nope.
You got to get in there. You got to have a look. I started identifying one of my best performing properties within this suburb. There was a hospital, there was a doctor, there was like transport, just all the basic
All the
things you
shops
hear.
around.
Yeah.
You look around and you're like, yep, bit of dinge here and
Bit of
there.
grit, but that's
Yeah.
okay. Like,
And
yeah.
yeah,
Bit of dinge.
yeah,
I'd
and then
steal that.
I zoom out on a map. I'm like, CBD's that far. It's like, this makes sense. This feels better. That pocket, I'm going to stay away. It was a bit too, it's probably 95%, So it's like, I totally agree with that. You've got to get on the ground a bit
Oh,
too.
look, with respect, we talk about parts of Melbourne that growing up in Melbourne, you wouldn't go there with a 10-foot barge pole. You'd be stabbed in the street,
Yeah.
But there's areas that have over time, gotten a bad reputation. Like, say, for example, and with all due respect to anybody listening, but some of your western parts of Melbourne,
Well, it was the same-
Broadmeadows or whatever, there's this stigma. But you go there and you walk the streets, and it's, yes, there's a big multitude of fruit salad of different cultures, but there are people living in that area. There is an ecosystem, there is thriving, there is business. And just because this goes for any area, but just because you personally wouldn't live there or want to move there doesn't mean that there's not a multitude of people that would be their
Yeah.
area.
Yeah. It just gave me this hot tip for anyone more proper entry level into maybe flipping or property. I remember, places like Southeast Queensland,
Yeah.
great blue chip cities. And
Yeah.
but if your budget doesn't allow you to get into those cities, it doesn't mean say
can't
no.
get in. Oh,
And
100%.
one of
Oh,
my
yeah.
mentors told me early on, if you're talking lower budgets at the moment, ordinary houses for ordinary people.
Mm.
Try and spot opportunities where
Yeah.
you're kind of just in that basic entry lit.
Yep.
You know the blue chips there, but you might not be there yet. But ordinary houses, ordinary people, they're generally usually there's always a demand there.
100%.
Always a
Yes.
basic infrastructure.
Well,
Keep
we
it
always
simple.
talk about catering to the 80s.
It's
So
solid.
cater to the 80% of the market of what people
Mm.
can either quote unquote on like either afford or what they want or need. In the sense like regional towns in nearly every state. We did a webinar on this the other night. Regional Victoria, regional New South Wales, regional Queensland. There are some cracking deals to be had in these towns that people have, it was a quiet little sleepy town at one point, but then now there's more and more mass migration going to these areas. One, for affordability, but two, for lifestyle.
Mm.
So when we talk about lifestyle, it's not necessarily that every single person wants to move to the Gold Coast to walk along the beach and in the sun. Some people, their idea of lifestyle is they want their cost of living to dramatically come down. So they've got the extra, they don't have to work 7 days a week. They can go back to doing 5 days a week, have time to spend the weekend with the kids, play around in the backyard because they can buy something out regional. When I say regional, it's half an hour away from the city.
Yeah.
But they've got the 800 square metre block or the 1,000 metre square block where they can actually have a backyard again. The amount of opportunities that people don't look in those areas for because they're too focused on, but everyone's doing the blue chip stuff. I've got to do that. Well, yes, there's opportunity there, but there's opportunity everywhere.
Yeah.
And what's your opportunity? And again, it might be something that you might need to go and do a couple of regional deals to start with. And then
Definitely.
you venture back into the
Yeah.
cities.
Agreed.
So, Matt, earlier on when you were building your portfolio, am I right in saying that you hit a wall or hit a ceiling with your finance and being able to move forward, as did we, because I resonated
Yeah,
with that
yeah,
story,
yeah.
right? But we personally froth on creative finance, finding solutions where there's obstacles. It will stop most people, but there's always a way. Did that end up being one of the best things that ever happened to you, and it forced you into learning about different ways of financing?
Yeah. One of my first ever mentors in property told me it's a game of finance. If you want to build wealth in property,
Yeah.
it is actually a game of obtaining finance.
Yeah.
So part of that journey, I hit a ceiling, and in my early days, single guy, single income, and finished footy and different things like that. And yeah, you want to keep buying property, but the bank won't allow you, right?
Yeah.
So that's where I started thinking different avenues, learning off different accountants, brokers.
Yep.
So two things that, if I could reflect back, number one was understanding your major banks are major bank, but there's so many other second, third tier
Yeah.
Right.
lenders out there that can get things over the line easier. I remember some of these banks I never even heard of
Yeah.
that got it over the line.
Yeah.
Yeah, the interest rate was a little bit more, but again, if you look at the annualized growth,
Yeah.
if I sat out of the market
Oh,
just for that extra little 0.5%,
exactly.
like I'd be kicking myself.
Oh.
So I just sort of seen that as like the opportunity cost of getting in. So
Yeah.
second, third tier lenders and, creative structuring and your
Yep.
broker, if you've got one, will hopefully open your eyes to different ways to obtain finance. And I know in your world, like JV private financing is a
Yeah.
big one too.
Yep.
Definitely.
Probably the biggest one in the journey I went down. I read a book called The Cash Flow Quadrant.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
going to ask you about that. Yeah.
Yeah, and that opened my eyes up of like, yes, you can keep scaling the portfolio unless there's creative ways to get finance that may dry up.
Mm.
You got to earn more money,
Yeah.
So
Yep.
at the end of the day, that's probably the easiest way that you can control to a degree on like improving servicing.
Yeah.
And if you feel that's capped maybe as an employee, again, there's different ways you can keep growing employees and different. But for me, I found I wanted to start business anyway.
Yep.
So I read that book, and essentially it was like on the left hand is like employee and self-employed, and on the right hand of the quadrant was a business owner and investor. And it was just around teaching myself and educating of trying to get on the right side of that quadrant. So
Yeah.
for me, I attached the business growth to borrowing capacity to
Yeah.
keep going. So that's where I kind of things happen. I had to take a bit of time out, new business, but
Yeah.
played the long game, and
Yeah.
I love that.
Look, I think when you're covering your costs with a positive geared property, which is a conversation for probably another day, but basically meaning that the income generated from the property is more than what the property costs you, then I think that really is the secret to moving forward, because it doesn't matter what an
Mm.
extra 0.5% will
Yeah.
cost you,
Yep.
because it's the capital growth that and thank you for highlighting that.
And the opportunity cost, as you said, Matty, to get into the market and pay that extra 1 or 2% for the money over a period of time, it's irrelevant, because you're in, and as you said, the leverage of what you can actually leverage as well. So when people say there's only the top 4 majors we don't really need to go near, and the one thing that you touched on briefly just about if you have a broker, most people getting into real estate need to have a finance,
Yeah.
that's
A
their thing.
finance, property
Oh,
savvy
God,
broker.
yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
property savvy broker, because as you said, there's hundreds of lenders out there. So most people think there's only the 4 major banks and maybe a couple of other sub-secondary mortgages they're second lenders they've heard of. But there's literally hundreds of finance companies out there that'll some of them will finance up to 100% to get the deal done if the deal stacks up. So
What do you believe is the biggest lie that Australians are led to believe about property investing?
That it's completely passive, number one.
just set and forget.
So, but like passive income.
Yeah.
Yes, to a degree, but I still believe you have to keep an eye on it. And obviously, I got my assistant who helps me with the property managers and that's, I guess, on that side. On the other side, I think the biggest, I guess, myth or constraint people put on themselves with property is that it's a get rich quick scheme. You can get very rich slowly.
Yeah.
And I think I even underestimated how much money you can make through what you said, capital growth. I think people can't, because it's not like immediate gratification.
Yes.
It's hard to annualize and think in your head that kind of amount of net equity being in your net wealth pocket.
Yeah.
And it's true. It can be there. So that's probably the biggest one. They don't actually realize like cash flow is what helps you hold the portfolio and can help with servicing, but capital growth is what makes generational wealth.
Yeah.
And then if you can layer that with manufactured growth as well, then you're home and
And you're on the
hosed.
Nirvana. Yeah. 100%.
So with your buyer's agency, I think it's awesome what you do, and you're helping everyday people get into a property that they love or find an investment property. But you've helped hundreds and hundreds of buyers now. What has been a client story over the years that completely changed how you think about what you actually sell? And I suspect that you're not really selling houses anymore, eh?
Yeah, I do a bit more of it. Very grateful. We've got a great team. There's a team of 17 at the moment, and a mixture of them are obviously buyers agents on the ground. So it's been awesome, like going through that journey and helping them.
Yeah.
They've all got property backgrounds, which is cool, and just helping them more on the, how to spot opportunity and things like that. So being a property guy myself, I still am in there a bit. I love it. But
Imagine,
the team do a lot of the buying now. But the biggest stories they always come down to. I'll give you 2 parts of it. On the client side, I mean, we could give you so many examples of like a really bad scenario that's led into the next chapter.
Yeah.
So it's unfortunate, like divorce, and we work with a lot of single mom who I don't know how they would have got into a property without someone helping them and guiding them. And it's a tough journey as it is emotionally. Then layer on trying to find a house in one of Australia's most competitive markets. So I think that's what we're really big on at our team, is like creating joy and fulfilling dreams one property at a time. Because
Beautiful.
even though we buy hundreds, that one person, that's their one experience, probably in the next 20 years. So we got to make sure it's a good experience. So that's been really fulfilling.
Yeah.
The other side of it is the amount of deals the team have got over the line through creative negotiation with terms just blows my mind. And this is where, again, you pay for advice and things like that. And again, it would be a whole new episode, but the amount of deals I could talk to you off air of like, we wiped out that clause, put this clause in, we put this settlement with a lease back clause. It's just like stuff you unless you have been in property for a long time. And they were the reason it got done. So
Look, often we'll find deals that won't be a deal unless we can put the terms in place. Now, if we can put the terms in place, we actually create a win-win-win scenario for the agent, the vendor, and ourselves. And I just froth on those scenarios whereby it's not just about a transaction. It's like you know, a lot of what we do with helping sellers. So, you know, we'll go in and we'll help a seller that can't move property because it's ugly or it's got something, or they are in a situation that they need, you know, assistance with and they can't get out of. And being able to solve a problem at the same time as help them make more money and we get to make money, everyone wins. So I love that you've said that, because terms are just so great. And I think it's an underestimated arena and an undereducated area for most real estate agents out there. They're not taught how to do it. And if they are, they're taught to stay away from terms.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
Yeah, I don't know. I agree with you. I think one of the most underutilized negotiation leverage tools in the world of real estate is playing with terms.
Yeah.
It is not always about price.
No.
It is about the terms.
Yep.
And I like the analogy you said. Where people go wrong in negotiation is they put it on the emphasis as I'm the buyer, there's the seller,
Yep.
we're going to
Butt
go
heads.
against each other.
Yes, it's
The
like a
best-
battle.
Yeah, the best real estate investors, buyers, against our best buyers agents in our team, they can very well articulate on like, what's the needs of that party, what's the needs of that party, and what's the needs of our party.
Yep.
I'm going to craft a scenario that everyone
Everybody-
leaves a winner.
Yeah.
I love that you
No,
said
I was going to say needs is we half of it is doing blue on the page. It's all about their needs, not yours.
Yes,
their needs.
their needs.
What do they need for this deal to work?
Yeah.
Once you listen to that and have that conversation, you can put it together.
I think
Because
that's a
otherwise,
going
that's you
up,
go. Most people go into a negotiation or a purchase thing. It's about headbutting and like locking heads, and it's me against you. Well, how about we work together? I'm interested in buying your property. You want to sell it. Let's try and make this work. And our whole ethos is like anything's possible and absolutely everything is negotiable. And as you said, the amount of people that, you know, it's not necessarily a price. And we, as renovators, have very, very, very rarely undercut the market value of a property. It's about just getting some terms. If we can get early access and we can drag out settlement for a couple of months instead of straight away, I'm happy to give you a price.
Yeah.
Like it's, and when we
There's
come
one
from that,
right now we're negotiating like that, actually.
and coming from that win-win-win like place, coming from a good, like just a good, proper, nice guy place, that's how we've done 50 plus deals.
Yeah.
We've never had a negotiation get to the point where it's us trying to take something from someone else. It's like,
Literally.
"No, let's make this work."
In fact, I love it when you can find a real estate agent, like negotiate with a real estate agent, and you actually, at the point where you offer to pay more
Yeah.
and seeing their reaction, they're
Yeah.
like, what? They're so unused to hearing that. But yeah.
Just on that, just a tip for any buyers out, especially if they're just starting, because it is sometimes negotiation and different things. I always say a good real estate negotiation is always around asking questions.
Yeah.
You got one mouth and two ears for a reason. You should be listening more than you're talking.
100%.
And I always say a really basic question you can ask, like, Mr. and Mrs. Agent, outside of price right now, are there any terms that you think wouldn't suit the seller?
Nice.
And straight
Love
away, that just cuts the noise and just goes, actually, they need this. So we're getting needs from them.
Yeah.
And it's like, cool. So just, again, just so I can understand, if I put a 45-day to suit Mr. and Mrs. Seller on their settlement there, would that be more? Oh, definitely. Cool. All right. So outside, is it just price when you work, or is it terms, and then you're just asking
great.
questions and moving in. And the biggest cherry on top of it all, I always say, your tonality is big in deals. And for you guys to do, 50, you know what you're doing. And we do a lot too, and we would both agree here. Have some fun with it. Like, just get a lot. Like, why is everyone so serious?
Be a human.
Yeah,
It's okay to
say,
laugh
come.
and-
Surely we're doing this today.
That's such a tiny change that can be a massive needle
Huge.
mover.
Yeah.
Because, I'm thinking and listening to what you're saying, and, you could go in and say it from the perspective of, is there a particular settlement time frame that the buyers are looking to achieve versus what you just said? Is there something that, what
We can, is there anything we can do to make it more attractive for your client?
Yeah.
It's like,
and it's finding
what do you
out
need?
yes,
Yeah,
exactly. Or is there anything that won't suit them?
Yeah.
Going in from that angle first, they're not going to immediately turn around and say, oh, definitely a quick 30-day settlement, which is what's so
Every agent wants
standard.
quick 30-day settlement.
But it's not the seller that wants it. It's the agent normally, 9 times out of 10.
Exactly.
My next question that I wanted to ask you, and this is coming from the perspective of a flipper, if I may, but when we do a project, normally agents will belt down our door to want to get the end product, right? Because it's easy for them to sell.
Yeah.
It's a nice product to sell. It normally sells well and all the things. So is there, we know we have a criteria of what we look for in a real estate agent, but from your perspective, what makes a good agent versus, somebody who's mediocre?
We're really fortunate, like our company get to work with hundreds of agents all over the Gold Coast Tweed. So we see on the coalface of like what makes a good agent and what makes a poor one.
Yeah.
I believe if you were to bottle it up into like this, what I believe makes a good sales agent running a buyer's agency and the feedback from our team, probably 3 key things. Number 1 is they are very proactive, not reactive.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they will chase us up for like where we at. I
Great.
love that. Like
That's
I'm big on
awesome.
my team on like follow up, follow through.
Of
Yeah.
course.
So
yeah.
the good agents they'll work for the client, say where are we at?
Yep.
Like, can I get an offer from you? Like, how good's that? They're calling me.
Yeah.
So I would want that represented for
every
me.
day of the week.
Yep.
Yeah.
Number 2 is an undeniable market knowledge like that.
Yeah.
Mm.
So they're at the kitchen table showing someone, hey, here's a feed. They're doing their job. They might say, oh, that property, like what are they expecting for this property? Well, based on the square meterage of the one that went around the corner, that was back in July. The market's moved in this pocket 14%. The square meter, and they're just like, boom,
Bang.
suburb knowledge. And the key one is they then combine that with, again, the buyer's needs. So they know buyer A, buyer B are looking for school what's most important to you guys?
Yeah.
School catchment is, well, the good thing around this one, guys, Tweed Primary is just around.
Just down the road.
Yeah.
You know, and so it's
Yes.
just like they're creating the emotional connection of
Yep.
moving into that property.
There's
Yeah.
so many
That's a
lazy
big
agents
one.
out there these days that I feel like, and again, not against all agents, but you can ask a simple question like, "Oh, I'm not sure." I'm like,
Yeah.
how do you not know that
About the actual property.
about the actual other property or even the areas? We always say you always must use like a local agent to that area specifically.
Localized.
You want them to mention the cute little cafe that's just opened up down the road by name. You want to make
Yes.
sure that 2 streets that way is down Jefferson, blah blah. Like you want them to have that local because they're selling the lifestyle, they're
Okay.
selling the story.
Well,
Definitely.
one of the best agents we've ever worked with, she's not working as an agent in the area anymore. I'm going to call her out. Sandy Weber. Hi to you. You were amazing. But one of the things that we love so much about Sandy is that, she would sell the dream to the buyers. So the minute they walked through the door, she'd be like, this one's great. You've got Cafe Gigi's down the road and you've got this one and this. And she would point out all of the key
How far
aspects
away
of
they
the
were,
area and what's so good about it. And I just thought, wow, here's someone that is selling the lifestyle element of living here. They're not selling the 4 walls because that doesn't matter to people as much as what the area and the lifestyle and the dream is to somebody,
Definitely.
Yeah.
I think the art of actually, selling the dream, like they
Exactly.
say. So that, they're big ones. They're just being a good human. I mean, you pick energy with people. We are in the game of people, right?
Well, that
Yes.
was what I was going to bring up. Like about we sell real estate, you sell bricks and mortar, you help put deals together. It's more of a people business than bricks and mortar. Even though the bricks and mortar is the product, that's what everyone wants. You're either selling a property or you're buying a property. But as you said before, even with the negotiations, you're talking to another human being. Just be you.
Yeah.
Like, just don't try and sound smarter than you are. Don't try and sound clever than you are. Don't try and be a dick. Like, just be honest and go, okay, if I'm happy with the price, is there any sort of favourable terms that could help make this happen?
Yeah.
I always tell people that if they want to, they say, what's your biggest advice with like gaining traction in real estate, and they're always expecting an answer of like, learning this unit economics or studying this suburb data. I always say, read How to Win Friends and Influence People and Influence by Robert Cialdini. That's a really good one too.
Yeah, I'll
And that,
write that one down.
because they are just all about what you said, people, connection, understanding, rapport. Yeah.
Father handed me that book when I was 14 years old and said, read this. It's the best thing that you'll ever do. And it was so good.
Yeah. Imagine what you're being like as a 14-year-old girl.
Yeah.
Read this.
Yeah.
With this attitude, read this.
Thanks, Dad. No, it was the best thing I ever did. But in closing, thank you, by the way, for everything, for the chat, for the knowledge, imparting your wisdom. But I've got one question for you that is probably not something that you expect, but what's just one thing in your life that has cost you less than $100? It can't be a book that has had the greatest impact on your life.
It's a really good question. Under $100, that's had the biggest impact.
It can't be a book.
Can't be a book.
For anyone sitting at home that, may not have a lot of money to go out and invest in courses or themselves right now, but one thing that could move the needle for you.
I would say my mind just went straight away to this, and it actually costs nothing. And
Better.
yeah, I would say it's developing a morning routine to get your state in the right zone.
Yes.
Yep.
And that costs you nothing. My favorite, again, this is a book, but the concept you don't have to pay for. But this is a book I read called The Miracle Morning. It's just around creating a morning that
Yep.
That's
fit.
awesome.
So it costs nothing.
Yeah.
So for me, I have to invigorate. I got to move. I love exercise. We live on the Gold Coast, so I'll always swim, meditate, and get illumination from the sun. Like that is my morning. Cost zero.
Zero. Yep.
Like again, I go to the gym, but I this morning I actually went for a swim in the ocean, just did push-ups, and
Yep.
cost zero.
How
It is
good was this ocean this
Yeah,
morning,
it
though,
was
by the way?
phenomenal,
I
yeah.
that too, yeah.
So again, wherever you are in the world, I think having some sort of anchor that gets you in the right state,
Yep.
it's the biggest ROI because it costs you nothing and it literally sets you up for the
Changes
day ahead.
everything.
Oh, that's
Yep.
so fucking good.
Yeah. Our whole
It's so true.
Our
isn't it?
whole thing when we do our boot camp and stuff is about just moving. Like just get up, and if you don't like exercise, just walk and drink water. Like those two
Yeah.
simple things can completely change your life. If you set yourself up for just a small little half an hour routine of going for a stroll in the morning, drink some water, hopefully go outside and get some sunshine if you can. If you're in Melbourne.
Yeah.
But the thing is that frustrates me the most is because they're so simple to do, people don't do them.
Yeah.
People think like I have to go and spend the $200 a week to go to this gym or go to this day spa and go to the infrared saunas and all this stuff and blah blah blah, hydrotherapy and stuff. Just go for a walk, drink some water, and get some sunshine.
Literally.
You'd be so surprised how much different your day will be.
And if
We-
you don't have your ocean, have a cold shower.
I was literally going to say this is a funny one actually on spend it like, spent a lot of money going to like a health retreat, right? And it's amazing. I love health retreats. I'll do it every year. But the biggest takeaway was like, they've got these principles, and if we could share, this might add to it all, is like, number one was hydrate.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So get some water,
Yep.
hydrate, invigorate, move, just whether it's exercise, yoga, Pilates, stretch, whatever. So hydrate, invigorate, illuminate, get some sunshine, direct sunlight,
Yep. Vitamin
and
D.
then meditate, some sort of reflective gratitude or just thought on like what you want to achieve for the day. And that's it.
Yeah.
It was like those 4 principles made the basis of this
That's
retreat that I paid thousands and thousands of dollars.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
like,
yeah, but we've gone to retreats where you fasting retreats.
Yeah.
You know, 10, 15 grand for the week and go there and don't eat anything.
yeah.
Just water and
Yeah,
sunshine.
yeah.
You're like, this is a fucking
Exactly.
expensive glass of water.
So like the 4 biggest things again, under 100 would probably fall in that is hydrate, invigorate, illuminate, and meditate.
Yeah.
And all of that is free. Create it somewhere in the day where you're going to get your state better.
Yeah.
Best investment.
100%. And like,
Amazing.
on that, for a lot of people that don't have a morning routine, because some people get up, they've got
Yep.
kids, they've got school drop-offs, they've got everything. Find half an hour in the middle of the day, lunchtime,
Somewhere,
or
yeah.
at the end of the day before you pick the kids up to school. Like, if you can't find half an hour a day for yourself,
Yeah.
you really got to look for
Yeah.
what you need to adjust to find the half an hour a day. Because, I think Tony Robbins said
You're
this, if you
living to
can't find an
work,
hour a
not
day,
working.
you're not living a life.
Yeah.
Like, you're just living
Yeah.
to live. Like,
And it's state management. Like to answer that question wholly, like what it's invest in a state management, your state.
Yeah.
I think you got to make time to just get you in the best state you can.
Yeah.
It dictates everything in your life, doesn't it?
Everything.
Yeah. Your results, how you hold yourself, how you handle yourself, the relationships that you come into contact with.
Everything.
everything,
Yeah, and it just, without going down the woo-woo rabbit hole, but how you show up, how you vibrate, we're
Yeah.
all energy, we're all vibrating matter, whether you like it or not. That's actually a science. But how you show up and how you're operating is what you're going to attract into your life too, because no one wants to hang around with a miserable git. So
Yeah.
If one business dries up real quick.
Yeah.
yeah.
For sure.
Oh, no, that's awesome, mate. Thank you so much. I'm not
No worries
really
there,
off to
mate.
Barbara O'Neill's Misty Mountain on the weekend. Speaking
Oh,
of golf
that's
fields,
good.
yeah,
Unreal.
I can't wait.
Unreal.
But thank you for your time and knowledge and wisdom, and I'm sure the viewers are going to absolutely get a bucket ton out of that episode. So if you've loved today's podcast and you want to hear more of this type of stuff, make sure you like and subscribe below. All the links to Matt are going to be in the chat, so make sure you look him up and find out more. And we
for
look
looking.
forward to seeing you on the next pod.
Yeah, thanks very much, guys. We're looking forward to purchasing a property on the Gold Coast. That is your boy.
That's your man.
Thanks, guys.
All right, guys.
Appreciate it.
Thanks very much, mate.
Cheers.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Cheers.
Matt. You've been listening to Freedom Renegades.
for those who are built different.
Stay curious, stay intentional, and we'll see you next time.